Hello and welcome, friends, family, faculty, and fellow graduates. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate the King's graduating class of 2021. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I and King's College, the university by which we'll soon refer to as our alma mater, are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. The peace and friendship treaties first signed by the British Crown and the Mi'kmaq in 1726 were intended to promote the mutual goals of cooperation and respect. They did not involve the surrender of land or resources, but recognized Mi'kmaq title and designated an ongoing relationship of friendship by the two peoples. We are all treaty people, and we bear responsibility for our relations, our entanglements with one another. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah. I just finished my fourth and final year at King's, and like many of my fellow graduates today, I was a student in the foundation year program in 2017 to 2018. Since then, I've mostly taken classes in the Contemporary Studies department at King's and in the Classics department at Dalhousie. And this past year, I've been taking my classes here, in my apartment on Oxford Street, at a block from Wasabi House, a 15-minute walk from King's campus, sitting at my kitchen table like I am right now. Welcome to my home. Make yourself comfortable. Though I'm alone in my apartment, presenting to a row of eclectic houseplants I'm babysitting for the summer, it brings me a lot of joy to think about all of you in your homes, wherever they may be, celebrating all you've accomplished over your time here, all the texts and talks and conversations that have nourished and challenged your thinking, all the friendships and memories that you've made. Though we may now be physically apart, in a very real sense, we're still sharing this experience together. I hope in this moment you feel connected and loved by the people around you. Love is something I've gotten to think a lot about this past semester. In CSP 4000, we just recently read Jean-Luc Nancy, for whom love is the ontological passion, that which inspires all thinking. It's also deeply connected to his thinking about community, that rather than defined by a common essence, community consists in the ways in which we are always already exposed to the alterity of one another. Love is that which pushes us outside ourselves and towards one another. That same week, we also read Bell Hooks, for whom love is a political force, something that can endow strength even when things are hard. Love for Hooks, in order to be politically effective, must be something that necessarily turns inward, even as it directs itself out. I start with love because I feel like thinking about love was how my time at King started. When I think about September of first year, think about Sappho and the Song of Songs. In my Greek class this term, we've been translating Plato's Symposium, and it's just as much of a sensory slip and slide as pop-up love was then, maybe even more if that's possible. Something I've learned from my past 4 years here is also, crucially, that critique is a form of love. That criticism rooted in love means I care enough, I'm invested enough in this enough to want things to be better, that we can do better, that we can leave places in a better place than we found them, and that we ourselves can strive to cultivate more caring practices in ourselves and in our communities going forward. We started CSP 4000 this year with a reading by Leanne Simpson from Dancing on Our Turtle's Back. In it, she describes the Anishinabe concept, Debawewin. While normally translated as truth, Debawewin means more literally the sound of the heart, or as Simpson articulates it, the sound of my heart, designating how one person's truth may be different than another's, that truth exists in plurality, that diversity and difference are necessary parts of the larger whole. This, to me, is the value of the kind of education we've been lucky enough to receive here. Learning how to read, how to listen, how to pay attention to thoughts and things that challenge our thinking, and then, after careful listening, learning how to respond, how to critique, how to create, and how to follow our hearts. Community is necessarily embedded into this kind of learning. This is learning to learn with as well as learning from. This kind of learning is unending and will carry it with us wherever we go, as beautiful and as difficult as learning can no doubt be. And at this point, on behalf of my classmates, I'd like to thank all the King's faculty who have guided us in this learning. and to work to keep King's campus, both physically and digitally, a more safe and vibrant place. For me specifically, this means expressing my gratitude for the faculty in the foundation year program and the Contemporary Studies department. Thank you for making me excited to come to class every day. I know this past year was exceptionally difficult, that I still loved school this year, despite being a bit of a Luddite, is a testament to your teaching. I'm so appreciative in this year particularly. I chose to come to a place that has the capacity to care for us as individuals, as people with names and stories, as opposed to a collection of pixels and a B00 number. To my classmates, I feel so grateful for everything I've learned from each of you in my past 4 years here. I'm continually amazed by your generosity, your curiosity, your strength, and your brilliance. From everything you've done with the KSU to the KTS, from all the concerts to student conference presentations, I'm constantly at a loss for words over the passion and thoughtfulness you bring to projects, papers, and presentations, artwork, articles, music, and events, and more. I'm so proud to be graduating in a class with you, and I'm so excited to see what you'll do next, and the next after that, and so forth. You make me feel hopeful about the future, which I think at this moment in time especially is really saying something. And you know, that's the beauty of the kind of education we've received at King's. We haven't been trained to do any one thing in particular, but I think we have been prepared to do whatever we want. This is, of course, its own kind of scary thought, this seemingly endless possibility, and yet a lack of easy answers. And to borrow a beaten near dead COVID cliche, we're living in unprecedented times. And I think it calls for interdisciplinary thinking and action, critical and creative responses rooted in love and care. And I think we're capable of this. By all metrics, this past year has been really hard. I don't think this was the final year any of us had in mind. There's no going around that. In so many ways, I feel like given the state of things, I couldn't have been luckier to be in Chibuktuk, to go to King's, to be surrounded and supported by people I care about and who care about me. And yet, it was still really hard to get out of bed most days. Here in Nova Scotia, the spikes in COVID count cases have coincided almost perfectly with the ends of our term. Within 24 hours of finishing my last final, the third wave hit and the province-wide shutdown began. It almost came as no surprise. April really is the cruelest month. And in terms of these finals, I got feedback on one that its ending was a little bit less of a bang and more of a whimper. Criticism is a form of love, and I agree with the feedback. And in some ways, this is another Elliottism that could be used to describe the end of our time here. But for me personally, at least, radical optimism is about the only way I can get out of bed. So I'd like to think that rather than a whimper, we've been getting our feet wet. You know, instead of being thrown from the loving arms of alma mater into the deep end of the real world, we've been splashing around for some time now and learning how to ride the waves as they come. Maybe this past year will make our transition smoother. Either way, we get through this because we take care of one another. Love and community are crucially always entangled with responsibility. This is what I've learned during my time at King's, and this is what I'm reminded of even now, even as we're not all in the same place. Even though we cannot be physically together, filling alumni hall, sitting on the library steps, splitting a picture at the wardroom, bustling about the quad. I hope we'll be together in that way someday, not too far from now. I've heard from past graduates and their parents that one of the few perks of an online graduation is that you can drink throughout it. I don't know what time this video will air, but regardless, I think it's more than fair to say that you deserve a drink or a treat or just, something of the sort. I'll stall a moment if you want to go quickly get yourself something, because it's my hope now that you'll join me in a cheers to the King's class of 2021. And of course, to all the family, friends, and faculty that have supported us throughout our time here and will continue to support us in whatever comes next. So if you'll join me in raising your glasses to you, to us, to one day hopefully celebrating together again. And until then, I'm sending you all my love. Thank you so much.